Today, we are going to be diving into how to create messaging and a sales presentation, and ultimately a proprietary brand that cuts through the noise, that stands out. And y'all, we need this more than ever today because there's so much competition. There's so much noise. AI is being used to help people create content. So there's a lot more content than we've ever seen before, but so much of it is lacking depth and lacking connection to the individual. So the reason why, in addition to that this is important is because the question ultimately becomes, am I brave enough to demarcate? So we have to, and before we can address that, okay, let me build a proprietary brand question, we have to back up and say, am I willing to demarcate like some of these brands that have lovers and haters? And there is no one I can think of more, I'm so excited, no one more qualified than Aleasha Bahr. I'm so happy you're here. You are a best time selling author. You're a coach. You are successfully doing this, not just for yourself, but for your clients. So you create messaging that demarcates. I'm so happy to have you. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you, Christine. I'm so excited to be here with you this morning. This is how I'm kicking my morning off in Colorado.
Yay. We love that. Well, I'm so happy you're here. Aleasha, what you do, one of the things that you have on your website and on even your LinkedIn banner. So one, you're very consistent with the messaging, but then you also have, it kind of demarcates. You say douchebag in your messaging, which I absolutely love. So tell us about what was the genesis of this moving into this kind of bravery and this ability to have courage around even using words like that most people would be like, oh, like that's kind of abrasive, or, oh, that's just unusual to see that. You say, stop selling like a douchebag. So tell us about this.
Okay. So, I mean, it started really like, I think Black Sheep. Oh, Vinny's here. Hi, Vinny. I love you. He's wonderful. It started with Black Sheep sales. So it didn't really start there, but when I started embracing Black Sheep sales, and that there are people who are just different and they feel kind of bad about it, some type of negative way about not doing things like everybody else. And that's because people don't like that they're doing things differently from everyone else. And it's like, why? If you look at any movement or, progress that's ever been made, it was somebody who was brave enough to stand up and say, hey, I've got an idea. I've got a question. And people said, you know what? That's different and therefore dangerous. And we don't like that. And can you please sit down and shut up? And they had to be brave enough to say, I just can't. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to keep talking. And we all benefited from that bravery. And so there's this inspiration that I really want to spread around to be bolder and braver in the way that you're talking about. And some of it is also listening to the market, which we've talked about a little bit before we started too. So when I said like, stop selling like a douchebag, like people laughed. They liked it. They knew exactly what I was talking about. It seemed to, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to argue with it. If that's what people can understand, then I'm going to roll with it. And I remember when I first started getting into this, like such a big piece of it was that there's not something out there for founders who aren't salespeople, who just have a company that they love. And they're like, oh, we have to do sales. Damn it. And then they go looking for training and it's really uncomfortable and awkward. And so I wanted to create something that was not that. And everyone was like, well, your brand can't be anti something, which is like kind of valid. And I needed to find a way for us to be our own thing, because I'm not throwing the douchebags under the bus. If being a douchebag is working for you, like, rock on. It's just that it doesn't work for most of us. So like, I want the message to be, you don't need to force yourself to act like this caricature, basically, of a salesperson in order to be good at sales. And in fact, you'll usually do much better not acting like that. It's just about everyone following what works for them. So if being a douchebag works for you, then you should keep doing that. But don't make other people feel like they have to do the exact same thing as you.
Right. So let's talk about that, because I actually ran into, for about 2 to 3 months, really almost like coming head to head with having to be in that position of selling. My entire business has grown through referrals. Thank God. What a blessing. But I've never
Yes.
really had to go out and sell. And so I'm starting this new business, Foundation First Marketing, which is marketing for trades businesses. And I was doing cold calls and I was like, this is awful. I hate selling. And I had this idea of a caricature of someone who is the salesperson. And so it felt so inauthentic to try to pretend to be a salesperson when I'm not. Like, I'm not a salesperson. And so, for how you help people effectively define how do I sell without becoming somebody else, what is the process that you guide people through in that way? So, like, okay, I don't have to become a different person. What does it look like for me to evolve this skill set for me?
Yeah, so that's such a great question, and one that I think a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
Um, and so much of it is finding a way to explain what you do is that you feel confident in. It's the
Mm,
positioning and language and messaging of it. So a lot of times founders are so close to what they do that it's like they almost forget what it's like to
mm.
not know everything about it. So they don't know how to talk about it in a way that lets the other person know what it does for them. So they'll be mentioning all this cool stuff that they do, like this stuff's amazing. How can they not realize the value of this? How is everyone not buying it? And it's because it's not being put in kind of like layman's terms for what the result is for them. So a lot of times just having like that messaging and structure that's going to allow you to articulate the value of what you do in a way that you're proud of and that someone else understands, that alone can just solve the problem right there. Because douchebag sales is about manipulation. It's not about accurately representing yourself. It's not about being transparent with somebody about whether they're a fit and if this is in their best interest or not. It's about getting someone to buy, whether that is through psychological manipulation or something else. And that's why it feels so gross. And honestly, it's not necessary. If you have something quality to offer, why would you need to trick or manipulate people into buying it? You
Right.
don't. And like people are going to be drawn to you so much more if you're just honest about who it doesn't work for. Like, so
Mhm.
coming up with that anti-audience is just as important as your ideal audience so that you can make sure it's a fit with somebody. And when you tell someone like, actually, I don't think you need this thing right now, like this is not the right
Yes.
step for you at this time, it makes people want to work with you more
Mm.
because they don't expect salespeople to be honest with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not something you expect. So with
Mm.
cold calling specifically though, Christine, there are many ways to prospect. And if you're choosing one that you hate, it's not ever going to work. So most people, if I meet someone who likes cold calling, I'm like, you are a unicorn and you are worth your weight in gold because it is rare that somebody enjoys cold calling. I do like hiring for sales teams reps who have done cold calling because everything else is cake comparatively. It's a really good training ground, but I know very few people who actually enjoy that.
What a good point. Yes, it's almost like the people who have their entry job, whether it's waitressing or working at a fast food place, it's like just putting in the reps of customer service. That's honestly how I felt. I felt like a 16-year-old kid making these phone calls. I'm like, I don't even know why you should work with me. Like, it was just, I felt so uncomfortable. So, what you said, though, that really, really resonated with me is effectively explaining why I feel confident in what it is that we're selling. And I think that, to your point, there's almost an element of shame that comes in that effectively counteracts the courage or confidence that would be necessary to really speak boldly. I know that if people work with us, we're going to transform their business. And for whatever reason, I feel like I need to apologize when I cold call and be like, I'm sorry for bothering you. I'm sorry for offering something that's really going to make a difference in your business. It's so bizarre. So, is it really this douchebag persona that just has almost like impacted our subconscious where we feel that shame for cold calling because the douchebags are calling cold calling too?
Um, yes, it is definitely like that subconscious idea of the douchebag is affecting people at every stage, not even just cold calling.
Right.
Um, there's also this cold calling has this element of like interruption to it that can feel weird for people. Like, I have no idea what you're in the middle of. And I'm calling to ask for some of your time. Like, there's something that feels a bit non-consensual about it for people.
Yeah.
So, like, it's not my favorite way to prospect either. I don't do it like that, you know? I really want to offer something of value first and or be something that's such a big pattern interrupt. So
Mm.
there is this guy online and this movement. I was just speaking at their conference called the Sales Rebellion. And they have these really fun and funny ways of reaching out to somebody in with like a physical piece of mail that's like just a pattern interrupt, like a empty donut box that's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, here I got, like, bored waiting for you, so I ate all the donuts, but here's a gift card for more." It's like, just
Cute.
stuff can't forget, and that's a
Yeah.
way that I think is much more fun to stand it's like, as soon as you can disarm someone, their ears are open. It's that when you're cold calling, you haven't disarmed them yet. So they're like, "I don't know you, and I don't know if you're a douchebag." And you're like, "I'm not." But anybody who says I'm not, I mean, can you believe them? Like,
Right. That's what they say.
that's what a douchebag would say. Yeah.
Yes, I love this. Aleasha, it reminds me of a friend of mine. One of the masterminds I'm a part of, they have this thing called Wicked Smart, which is where all of the members have the opportunity to submit an idea of what's working in their business, and then they get this award, Wicked Smart. And and so what he did was he changed the caller ID on his phone that when people answered, like when they saw him calling, it said, and he's it's so bad. It's so like it kind of like catches you by surprise. He's this big burly black guy, and in his caller ID was black ass Chris. And people answer, and they're laughing. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I have to patch you through to the person that you want to talk to because that's so funny." And of course, he won the whole thing out of all these people who submitted what's working in their business because it was so funny. All of us were laughing, the people that he's serving is laughing, and he's closing like 10x what he was before. He's getting through to the people. So I love that what you're saying about knowing what prospect channel you love, because then that's going to embolden you too. Like, is it through disrupting a pattern? Is it through humor? Is it through offering value? What is the preferred method of sales that really aligns with what we enjoy and who we are? So I really, really love that. How do you help people identify what their preferred modality is?
Well, I mean, some of it is really trial and error, but
Mhm.
I wanna work with people who do wanna be a pattern interrupt because that's what I'm most comfortable with. The whole black sheep sales process in general is a big pattern interrupt because it's so transparent and honest and collaborative instead of this like power over and like I'm going to beat you into submission thing that most of the time is sales. So and Tracy, you're so kind. I have to say, because she said that she loves me too. I feel like I have to shout that out.
I
Um,
love Hi, Tracy.
yeah. So like part of stop selling like a douchebag is sometimes people like will message me and be like, "You're offensive." And I'm like, "We're not a fit. Like you deserve to find someone who is as appropriate as you want them to be, who is like prim and proper and whatever." So I would bet that black ass Chris sometimes gets people who don't like that. And that's okay. Like, good branding repels as much as it attracts. Like, you want someone who wants to have fun and have a good time because business is serious enough, right? Like, let's, like, have some fun with it. And making someone laugh is absolutely something of value to bring to people. Like,
Mhm.
that value isn't only like tips and tricks. It's making somebody feel good. It's saying that
Yeah.
you believe in them and meaning it. It's making them laugh because they've had a shitty day, you know? Like, how nice is that to offer to somebody? I know I would love to be on the receiving end of that, you know?
Yes. I so appreciate everything you're saying, Aleasha. We actually, before we hopped on here, we were chatting about empathy, and we were chatting with just that whole ability to make people feel really seen. And it starts with our own ability to present ourselves authentically. because otherwise empathy becomes manipulation. And it becomes a tool and a tactic to make people do what we want them to do. And people can feel that, whether they feel it right away or they feel it after the sale and they regret their decision. And y'all, there's a lot of, one of our clients, we were looking at the customer journey, and I saw that this was a trades business. And I was looking at, our leads, and then the conversion to appointments, and then conversion to sale. But then I was looking at how many canceled sales were there? How many people ended up regretting the decision? And 11% of their total sales for the entire year were canceled. And I was like, y'all, we need to go and save those people. It's way more expensive to be bringing in leads that we end up canceling than to actually let's focus on the bottom of the funnel and keeping those people in love with us. But then also, what are we doing at the beginning of the process that's causing people to cancel at the end? How can we better qualify so they really have the expectation? I actually, before I started my business, the organization that I previously worked for said that a strong brand sets the emotional expectation for the experience. And I love that. It's an emotional expectation. People buy based off of their emotions. And so in sales, we need to be able to connect with empathy, but also coming from a really authentic place. You said that at the beginning, and I really, really love that. Can you tap more into effectively what's our job? Yes, resonating with them, making them feel seen and heard and laugh and disrupt their day. But what's our job as the entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think our job as founders or any salespeople is understanding, like, do you even need this? Like, do you, like, first, is there a need? So, having some questions that are powerful around like what's going on in their
Yeah.
business. So, I mean, when you first disarm someone in a cold calling atmosphere, you really want to set a conversation for later. You don't want to have a conversation right there. And in that later conversation, you can dig a lot deeper than just like right there, unexpected when we didn't mean to have a meeting. But like just being able to say, like, would you benefit, for example, let's say before, if somebody they're disarmed, let's say that they're disarmed, right? And you're like, yeah, so I mean, before we talk about what we could potentially do, let me ask you, would it benefit you to have a higher retention rate for your customers? Like, is that something that you're looking
Right.
to improve right now? And if they're like, yeah, great, that's what we do. Like, let's set up a separate conversation about it. You can really like, you just don't want to meet with anyone with a
Mhm.
pulse and a credit card. Like, that doesn't happen as a fit. So getting really clear on the patterns of people who are super happy with results with you and the patterns among people who are not super happy with the results with you. What did they have in common? And that is your anti-audience. Like, did they not have a certain amount of support staff in place? Did they not have something that was working organically? Was their fulfillment really not set up on the back end? Did they not have brand assets they could get you? Like, what are those pieces of criteria? And then you can get really, it just feels really good on the receiving end as a prospect for someone to be like, it's okay if you're not a fit. Like, it's okay if this is not something that you need. And I don't want you to get something that you don't need, you know?
Yeah, that's so good. I feel like there's even releasing in that. There's a lot of freedom for the other person. I'm reading this book. I'm just going to get philosophical for a second because so much of the way that we orient ourselves on the horizontal level with other people in the external is predicated on our health on the internal. So I'm reading this book by David Hawkins, Letting
Oh,
Go, and he was talking about so many examples of people who were, whether it was looking for a place on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, they're looking to rent a place, other people who are looking to close the deal, and many, many others. But it was like when they actually let go of the desired outcome, then it kind of came back to them. It's so interesting because if we're really grasping tightly, that people feel that, and they kind of don't like, they kind of immediately back up a little bit rather than leaning in because there's almost, I'm curious to hear your perspective of it. Like, what's the energy that it gives off when people experience you and you're not tight fisted over their decision? What would you say?
so they
Mm,
call it detachment
mm,
from the sale. And it is really powerful. The alternative of it is commission breath. I can feel that all you want is
mm.
my money. Like, that's how you're at me. So when you give someone the permission to really explore it not being what they need, they will choose in much stronger. So when I work with clients and we define that anti-audience and then we like share it across their marketing channels and in their sales conversations, people can self-identify and say, oh, I know who you're talking about. That person who's just looking to check a box and doesn't really care and maybe just wants absolute obedience from their employees or whatever it is, because you want to like think beyond just niche and demographics. Psychographics are really powerful too. And they can say, that's not me. So they feel more confident moving forward with you. So being able to like really, we've all had, have you ever had a nightmare client, Christine?
It's awful.
Isn't it?
No.
It's not worth it. It costs more. It actually, you make less money with a nightmare client. So when founders realize they genuinely do not want a nightmare client, it allows you both to explore, because a nightmare client is really someone with misaligned expectations. So like, what are you expecting here? In what timeline? Like, what kind of access are you supposed to have to me? And what result are you expecting? And if those things line up, you can confidently say,
Yeah.
that's what we do. Like, let's do it. And it's an easy transition to the sale as opposed to this, like just forcing someone. And to get there, you have to explore like, now, if you need it in a month, that's not going to be us. You have to be able to explore with someone. Or like, if you're like, I just want the cheapest price, whether that means that I have to spend a bunch of time, like one of my clients right now, the pattern he identified is people with small families don't want to figure out how to install their cybersecurity systems. And the other people are like, I'll figure it out, even though it's going to be so painful. So if you're someone who doesn't want to spend a bunch of time and would rather like invest in someone else to get it done right, that's us. Let's do it. Like, we don't even need to have a conversation if you're worried about like getting the cheapest price, because we're not the cheapest.
That's so good. I love what you're saying about effectively going back at the data and looking at, okay, this is the result for our ideal, and then these are the results for our our nightmare clients. And then being able to inform whether it's go back and taking that audience, because one thing you can do on the marketing side is you can go back to Facebook algorithms and upload that as like, don't target these people. Like, this is an unideal audience in addition to this is who we want. So we can allow for the data to effectively better streamline on the inbound side. But then also, this is a question for how you kind of guide people in terms of setting up their data to then be read easily, rather than I'm thinking about people who might have, let's say, 15 to 20 customers a day or inbound leads that are coming in. Maybe 100, one of our clients was using, I think it was Rilla, which is an AI tool that's hooked up to the salesman. So when they do the door-to-door sales or they go in for the service appointment, they'll be able to record and capture, and then they can see the trends with this AI tool throughout the conversation. At what point are they talking about different things? Like you can have your, no interest rate loans for us or free financing, things like that. Like, at what points in the conversation are they bringing up different benefits, but then also talking about pain points to identify the trends? And then they train the team collectively on the top performing salesmen. So what have you helped people set up in terms of systems or processes to then have the data inform the decisions that they make in terms of sales?
Yeah, I mean, that software sounds amazing. Usually, yeah. So I would definitely use AI to process any kind of like large volume of data to systemize it. The sales team, like the boots on the ground, a lot of the times it's talking to them and understanding what patterns the other people are saying. Like, are these like really a salesperson that's just complaining, or is this valid? Like, no, all 3 or 4 of them have said something similar here. We need to create a marketing or sales tool around this piece specifically. So like, I know you're working with tradespeople. So, a lot of people with siding, wasn't there like a scam like 2 decades ago, and people are like still worried about getting scammed for siding. So like, what can you provide to offset that concern if it's coming up a lot, for example? Or So creating systems around patterns is definitely going to make things
Yeah.
more predictable. And then also like, using that in your marketing and inbound stuff too. I would say like processing large volumes has to be AI, but really like talking to multiple people and hearing the patterns
Yeah.
among what they say, you can
Yeah,
get a
that's
lot from
so
that
good.
too.
I love the having an ongoing conversation so that sales and marketing are really in sync around what's working. And I've been another one of our clients, they're specifically business development managers versus, sales, but they're going in and they're finding out a whole bunch of data. I mean, they're the what boots on the ground. So we have to be talking with them, whether we're the founder or the marketing team or whatever part of the business. Is there a through line of continuity around their market research? And we need to know what they know because they're the ones talking to the customers. So I so appreciate your point there. That's so, so, so good.
Preach, preach, Christine, because too often they are not on the same page, and the marketing is something that the sales is like, I never even come in
Yes.
contact with whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
And they're yeah, all the time. And like they really are on the same team. And it's so often not like, and it needs to be this collaborative process that is ongoing because markets evolve. Like there's differences that changed seasonally, that change based on political or economic climate, or and so having that ongoing conversation, like, why are sales down now? Oh, well, because there was a shift in
Yes.
whatever, and then you create
Yeah.
different
There was a
tools for that.
big shift in buying patterns around the election. And like we forget that that's going to happen. And then what that allows us to do, the more we've got a thumb on the pulse with what salesmen are doing and what they're finding, again, regardless of who the teams are, it informs the expectation for leadership. Or God forbid you've been acquired by private equity and you have a much larger group to respond to, where your job is in their hands. It's really beneficial in every regard for not just looking back, but also forecasting for, even if it's 4 years later on the political climate, being able to prepare and set the expectation, to your point. So Aleasha, question for you, because a lot of what you're saying is both for like the salespeople, boots on the ground, but then also to you're a whole other audience, executives, entrepreneurs, founders. Thank God you're doing this because so many of us need this. You talked at the very, very beginning, you said these two words in tandem: bigger and bolder. I love that. So how do you help these founders transform in being able to come forward with the big and bold brand that they cultivate, where they have the confidence in what they're selling? How do you encourage them to kind of take a step back from what they're so used to doing, talking about, living and breathing every day, so that they can then sell effectively?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is having an objective point of view. So, especially an objective point of view that this is like their
Yeah.
expertise. So, when you're a founder and you're so close, sometimes you forget what is different about you, and different in the way that other people would care about, because there are probably a long list of things that are different about you, but there are like 3 that other people are going to be like, "Ooh, I really like that." So when I work with somebody, I talk through all the things about their business and their audience and like their competition. Like, what do people say when they are getting the same service that you offer from someone else and they have a bad experience? Like, what are they saying they don't like about it, And what do you have in place that provides a different experience? And a lot of times we're able to pull the differentiators out of that conversation. And sometimes it's just me here. I've done this long enough across like hundreds of people that I can be like, that's different. Nobody talks about that thing. So, for example, I have a guy who does fitness stuff, and it's really easy for him to get boxed in as a
Yes.
fitness guy. And people expect it to be like a gym and like a cheap gym. But when I talk to him about what he does, he actually helps people become injury proof and
Love
pain
that.
free. Yeah, it's not really about getting skinnier or more
Yeah.
swole. It's about
Mhm.
functionality for life. Like those things happen as a byproduct, but they're definitely not
Mm.
the focus. So once he started explaining that, he was able to bring customers in at like 4,000 a month because they're avoiding, he's never been able, like he's never had someone that he couldn't save from surgery because surgery so often has all these other things that come with it. Like you get cut open and then you got all these other issues that happen. So, and so often you don't need it. So, like, once he was able to just quickly and concisely communicate that and communicate why or how he's able to do that without going into the weeds, people were on board because this is something that they really need. And the people I work with that are attracted to me have something genuinely different. If they don't,
Yeah.
I can't really help you. You know, like I'm not going to be able to say, here's this totally commodified service and you just want to make money. And like,
Yeah.
that's all you're doing here. Like I can't, but if you're someone who really cares, most founders really care about their client. And there's a reason and a how that they do things because they care. And it's about articulating that. And it's just so rare that anybody even really cares. How often have you, as a buyer, for example, had a wonderful, like so much attention during the sales process, but then in the fulfillment and delivery, it's like you don't matter anymore.
Yeah, it's such a good point.
Yeah.
And so to that exact same thing that you just said, we talked about through lines earlier with like the messaging. That's okay. Is the customer care a consistent through line too? Like, where does the customer journey break down? Where does the customer experience break down? Where do we all of a sudden make our customer feel lost, alone, like they don't have their hand held? Because to your point, it is when you spend so much attention on the front end, on the first half or the first quarter even, that then they convert. It's like, oh gosh, our whole customer experience just completely falls off because we forgot about training, the call center, how to have similar messaging as the in-person sales team. You know what I mean? We spend so much time cultivating the sales team and the sales process. So I'm so grateful that you said that, because we need our operations team to be taught with a similar type of values and alignment with the brand. And what did we promise in the first place? So are we actually having the through line of the care and the experience? I'm so grateful you said that, Aleasha. Thank you so much, because that's forgotten. And so often it's in the handoff that we see the breakdown occur. But whether it's any kind of fulfillment, whether it's in person or even digital fulfillment, it's just like such a poor customer experience. So
I'm so grateful that you're looking at that, because so many people aren't looking at the entire experience, and it is sales. After the sale, the sale's not over, actually. You want to like it's really important for the customer to know the value of what they're getting, and for them to say out loud, "No, this has been very valuable. Thank you." You want to hear that from the client. Like, "Have you seen this impact in your business?" "Yes, I have." And then there's also a process to like for, talking about what's next. Okay, great. You've seen this. Now this is going to be the next step and the difference that's going to make. And so there really it's a continual process of someone understanding the value that you're bringing to them. And so I don't know if I answered your question about being bolder and bigger as well as I could have, but I think a lot of the times it's like, especially like with the fitness client that I talked about, you got to be able to say that 99% of the time you don't need surgery. He's scared to say it. But when you say it, like, that gives people hope. You are going in a situation, if they come and talk to you and you're like, "Actually, this is a situation where you need surgery," are you gonna tell them? "Yes?" "Okay, great. Then let's go feel comfortable putting that message out there." And, one of the most popular marketing strategies is throwing rocks at your enemies. Like, when y'all have a united, like, I don't like that." Like, Western medicine has failed us. They put us on pills or cut us open, and that's it. They treat symptoms, not root causes. Like, this is that, like, that's what's happening, and it's gonna upset people, and those people are not
Yes.
your
Well, and
people.
what's so exciting is once we get clear, all of a sudden we find so many other people in other industries that we can potentially partner with who are aligned in that value. He could have a whole functional care medicine day where it's all about addressing the root cause at his gym, because gosh, if you have a physical location, what a blessing. You can do so much with that in terms of hosting events, and people want community. So I just totally am derailing us for a moment. And I think that this is really important. Y'all, the clearer we are in our values, the clearer we are in who we are, the more we're then able to attract not just customers, but also partners, referral partners, people outside the box where maybe there's not even immediate monetary value, but maybe it's a high ticket offer that comes by way of partnership. So all of a sudden the lid flies off and there's so much potential for business, but we have to be brave and willing enough to tell the truth. Tell the truth of what it is that you offer. And I'm right this in here with you. It is hard to admit. I don't feel like people might see the value in emotional health, even though I know that emotional health literally will save families, lives, communities, businesses. And so I believe this so strongly, yet I'm still struggling to get over the hump of my aversion, but that's my mission. And so the more I just feel so strongly, like each one of us, the more we're in touch with our mission and we know it, and then we're brave enough to speak about it, that's when we're going to be that strong brand that does repel, but also really attracts. It's so exciting. It's worth it. So, Aleasha, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Christine. And you can feel it. Like I could feel when you were talking about like what I'm really about, people can feel the difference in that passion behind it. And passion is contagious. So when you say what you're really wanting to say, like, and emotional health is really important. Like the number one cause of disease is stress. That is statistically proven. Like there's tons of data. Yeah. So it really comes down to like you explaining it in a different way I don't know if we have time,
We
but
have
like
time.
do we have time? So like, for example, in something like that, because I've worked with people who are also confidence coaches. Can't sell nobody's buying confidence. Okay. Nobody's buying it. It sounds nice. Nobody's buying it. It sounds like fluffy stuff. But if you're able to position it as like attracting your next romantic partner, all of a sudden that's something people want, right? So with emotional health, you can bring up scenarios like, for example, when you're really stressed and your kids come to you for something that they really need help with, like how do you respond compared to when you're not stressed? So people can kind of like contextualize it in their own lives more and see the impact that stress has. When you're in a calm place and you're making a decision compared to when you're stressed and you're making a decision, when do you make better decisions? So nervous system regulation in general, like, with that feeling where you're just on edge. Imagine not feeling like that. What results would that create for you?
I love that. I love the imagine if, helping people dream and actually think bigger than what's here and now, because so many of us, man, we haven't dreamed since we were kids. And so much of that is actually returning back to, well, who was I created to be? And then we see, okay, that's probably your calling lies therein. So many of us, the things that we loved and sparked joy in us in childhood that we've forgotten, neglected, abandoned, shamed, we need to pull forward to today, because there's probably some truth there about how we need to be either living our lives or even rejuvenating our soul, so that, to your point, we have a calm response for our children rather than a stress response. So I love that. I love helping people dream of like what's possible. Even like imagine not getting injured when you work out. Imagine not needing to undergo surgery when everyone is telling you, what's possible. And it's effectively imagining your ideal life.
Yeah, I call it hope selling.
That's beautiful. I love that. Aleasha, thank you so much. You've been so generous with your time. I love everything that you've shared and laid out for us, because it really does touch every single part of the business. While it initially sounds like, okay, that's the top of the funnel, y'all, we sell all the way through until they're done. But even then, that's the opportunity to turn them into your evangelist. So we're never done selling, no matter the part of the customer journey. Aleasha, how can we hear about you more, learn more about you?
Yeah, so I have a book, Black Sheep Sales, How to Win More Sales Without Acting Like a Douchebag. I also have a podcast, Sales is
Love it.
Not a Dirty Word, and I'm
Amazing.
on.
Aleasha, thank you. Guys, I love ending these conversations with a prompt, with a question. I would love for you and me to think about who is our and what is our anti-audience. We usually have our ideal picked out, but what is our unideal? What's our anti-audience? Aleasha, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so grateful for you.